It was one of those quiet mornings that small towns are made of: cold air outside, the hum of an old jukebox inside, and the smell of bacon and coffee mixing in the air. At Miller's Diner, the regulars were already in their usual spots. Truckers, retirees, a waitress named Darlene with a laugh that could brighten anyone's day, and sitting in the corner booth, as he always did at 7 a.m., was Frank Dalton, 81 years old, a Vietnam veteran with hands that still shook sometimes when the door slammed too hard. He came there every morning, rain or shine. Always ordered black coffee, 2 eggs sunny side up, and toast. He sat quietly, reading the same newspaper he'd been holding for weeks, not because of the news, but because it gave him something to look at other than the memories behind his tired eyes. Frank was a man of few words. The town knew him as Old Man Dalton, the quiet veteran who sometimes fixed things for free, who saluted the flag even when no one else was watching. That morning, though, something was different. A black pickup screeched into the lot. The door slammed open, and a man in his mid-20s, tall, mean-looking, with tattoos creeping up his neck, stumbled inside. His name was Kyle Ricks, a drifter who'd been in trouble before, drunk, angry at the world, with nothing to lose. He looked around the diner, sneering. "Coffee," he barked at Darlene, "and make it quick." Darlene smiled politely, trying to ignore his tone. But Frank's old eyes lifted from his paper. He didn't say a word. He'd seen that kind of anger before. In jungles. In bars. In broken men who'd lost their way. Kyle noticed the old man staring and snapped, "What are you looking at, Grandpa?" Frank just lowered his eyes again. "Nothing, son. Just having my breakfast," but that only made Kyle angrier. He walked over, his boots loud on the tile. "Don't call me son," he hissed. Darlene stepped forward. "Hey, leave him alone." Kyle ignored her. He leaned down over Frank. "You think you're tough, huh? With your little veteran cap and your stories. You ain't nothing but a useless old man." Frank took a slow breath. "You were right," he said softly. "But I thought so men like you could have the freedom to be whatever they choose, even if it's this." For a second, the whole diner went silent. You could hear the coffee drip. Then Kyle's face twisted with rage, and he slapped Frank across the face, so hard the old man's glasses flew off and clattered onto the table. Darlene screamed. Someone in the back shouted to call the police, but before anyone could move, the door opened again. The bell above the door jingled, and in walked 3 men in leather jackets. Patches gleamed on their backs, a skull with wings, Hell's Angels. The man in front was tall, broad-shouldered, with a beard streaked with gray and tattoos of eagles and chains. He looked around the diner with calm, assessing eyes. Then his gaze landed on Frank. "Dad," he said. The whole place froze. Kyle stepped back a little, unsure. This your old man?" he stammered. The big man took a slow breath. "Yeah, that's my father." Frank blinked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Jimmy." "Yeah, Pop." Jimmy's voice softened. "I came through town to see you. Didn't think I'd find you getting slapped around." He turned back toward Kyle, and his face turned to stone. Behind Jimmy, the 2 other bikers, both Angles, stepped forward, arms crossed. Kyle started backing up. "Hey, I didn't know, man." Jimmy took another step closer. "Didn't know what?" "That he's a man who gave everything, so punks like you could run free. That he buried friends you'll never be good enough to know." Kyle's back hit the counter. His voice trembled. "Look, I just lost my temper, okay?" Jimmy's voice lowered, steady, dangerous. "You don't touch my father. Not ever. You got that?" The diner was dead silent. Even the jukebox stopped. Kyle nodded fast. Yeah, I got it." Jimmy leaned closer, just enough for Kyle to see the fire in his eyes. "Now apologize." Kyle turned to Frank, shaking. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean it." Frank just looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Son, war taught me one thing. Hate don't fix nothing. Go make it right. Be better." Kyle blinked, as if those words were heavier than the slap he'd given. He swallowed, turned, and stumbled out the door. His truck roared away into the distance. For a long while, no one spoke. Then Jimmy pulled up a chair beside his father. "You okay, Pop?" Frank smiled faintly, touching the red mark on his cheek. "I've been hit hard by life." Darlene came over, tears in her eyes. "Frank, you sure you're all right?" He nodded. "Thanks, sweetheart. Just another day." Jimmy looked around the diner, then back at his dad. "You know, Pop, I never stopped being proud of you. Even when I went my own way." Frank smiled softly. "I know, Jimmy. You were still my boy." Jimmy reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, a pin, shining gold. "The club wanted you to have this. For respect." Frank looked down at it, a small angel wing with the number 81 engraved. He blinked hard. I don't deserve this." Jimmy placed it gently in his hand. "Yeah, you do. You were the reason I learned loyalty, honor, and respect, long before the angels ever taught it. A few days later, something strange happened. Kyle came back, cleaned up, sober, different. He walked into the diner, while Frank was having breakfast again. The whole place danced, until Kyle walked up to Frank and said quietly, "Sir, I got a job at the auto shop down the road. I just wanted to thank you for not pressing charges for what you said." Frank smiled. "Good for you, son. Keep walking that road." Kyle nodded, then left a small American flag on Frank's table before walking out. Jimmy, sitting nearby, watched it all with quiet pride. That night, as the sun dipped low over the town, Frank sat on the diner porch with his son. The two men didn't need words. They just watched the sky fade from gold to purple. After a long silence, Frank said, "Funny, isn't it? You fight wars overseas, and sometimes the biggest battles happen right here, over a cup of coffee." Jimmy chuckled. "Yeah, Pop. But the good ones still end with peace." They sat there until the stars came out, the old veteran and his biker son, two men who'd lived on opposite sides of the world, but found their way back to each other through a moment of pain turned into forgiveness. And for everyone in that small diner who'd witnessed it, something changed. They talked about it for weeks, about how an act of kindness can stop hate, how strength doesn't always come from fists, sometimes it comes from mercy. If you ever drive through that little town, and stop at Miller's Diner, you might still see Frank sitting there. That golden pin on his jacket, the flag on the table beside him, and if you listen closely, you'll hear Darlene say, "That old man? Yeah, he's the toughest soul I've ever met."